Lake Gkula at Woodford, the biggest project I've ever undertaken, probably the largest one, or is the largest one, aquascape system in Australia, that size, and I'd say recreational system in Australia, if not the Southern Hemisphere, naturally filtered. An absolute dream to actually get such a project like that. I've been waiting for that for a long time, and I've actually had Woodford in my mind for a long time, and it just happened. The CEO got in touch and described what he wanted, and I said that's exactly what we do, and there was no other way to go about it but saying yes, we can do it. And we could do it, and we did do it. It was a big challenge. It's an acre and a third. It's a massive system, massive amounts of rock, 2,000 tonne of boulder, another 2,000 tonne of pebble to put in by hand, and each one is individually placed. We didn't have a lot of challenges in weather. It was dry. We did it through winter, which is the best time to work in Australia, especially in North Queensland or in Queensland. We did have a timeline though, because we had to get it done before the Woodford Folk Festival, and we ended up having about 6 to 8 weeks of running time before people actually got there and started getting into it. On this particular project, we had to have people who knew what they were doing or had some kind of experience. So from around Australia, we had certified contractors, the CACs, all come in different stages. There was up to 3 groups working there at a time, and it moved pretty good. We timelined it really well, and we were right on target by about a week and a half, I think. Pretty good for such a project. When we got it going and we turned it on, and the response from the staff and the people at Woodford who run Woodford was incredible. They just gushing, they just couldn't get over it, you know. It was just amazing. They just couldn't believe that such a thing was possible. So that was a good thing, and I think they did have trepidation. They were like, is this going to work? We've put so much into this to offer a place at the festival, because it gets extremely hot and people need somewhere to cool off because it's oppressive. So this was a key thing for their festival to make it successful and go into the future. So they wanted it to work, they needed to know it worked, but then there was always the doubt that would it work, and especially with the amount of people that went into that. There was 25,000 people that used that lake, and the response from the patrons, they were absolutely blown away that this thing had now been created, and only in a year, not even a year. They'd been to the festival last year, a lot of them, and suddenly this thing had appeared in their space. You know, some of them their favourite camping spaces, although they were very happy that it was now a lake. And the kids playing and discovering fish and being able to cool off was something which changed the festival. They were calling it a game changer. The lake was a game changer to the whole festival. In total, this will hold about 9 or 10 megalitres. And the intention of this lake, it's a recreational, ecological, I suppose you'd call it something which sort of mirrors or supports the environment, especially the aquatic environment in this area. So we'll be stocking this whole thing with endemic plants, endemic fish, all the way from small stuff up to the big primary species, the pinnacle species, the Mary River cod. It's taken us, we're on our 12th week now on this project, programmed in for about 3.5 months, so we're on track with it really, really well. We've got quite a few elements in it. The initial brief was for plenty of area for people to be able to interact on the edges, sand beaches, things like that. We also have some deep pockets and deep areas and places for fish to hang out, so there's the full environment that's suitable for fish. So depth on this one, the total depth of this system, in the deep area we've got about 5 metres. So 5 metres deep, and we do it that deep just so we get good contact with the soil, we get some cooling effect going on. It's a big body of water. We want it to be able to behave like a natural body of water. Behind us here, we have a big wetland at the top here that'll be delivering all that water down here, aerating it. It'll be all moving down to that end to our intake bay where it'll be reticulated again. Reticulation is really, really important in these, just so you get flow through as you would in the natural body of water. That's what helps to maintain it clear and clean. Filtration in this is by 2 very large wetlands, working on about 12% of the surface area of the actual lake. We'll be in wetland, and there's one at this end here, which is about 240 square metres, and there's one down the back there where the excavators are working, is the secondary one. And they'll be pumping, water will be pumped in again, like I mentioned before, from the intake bay, our pump central, to both of those, up into jetting through the beach here as well to keep that water moving through the beach area, and then all moving back down to be taken up back again by the pumps to be turned around. Our swimming zones here, we've got 2 metres deep, so we have some nice jumping rocks off these waterfalls. People can quite happily sort of enjoy this one like they would down at a creek, you know, down Barron Gorge or something like that. It'll give that kind of impression and feel. Yeah, we've got some big pumps in this project. We had to keep the wattage down, no, not the wattage, the kilowatts down really. So we have 2 main pumps, they're 5.5 kilowatt, and each one of those delivers 290,000 litres. They're the ones that'll be feeding both wetlands. They'll be running 24/7. We have to maintain aerobic conditions in the wetlands. And then we have 2 additional pumps. They're 3 kilowatts and they're the jet pumps, and they're each 180,000 litres an hour. and they'll be jetting into these areas and the beaches on the edges, just to keep that water moving and the surface moving.
Down in here where I'm standing, water's overhead, so we're talking 2 meters, I guess. And if you can imagine that, looking around there, all these rocks are going to be sitting 1.5 up, so there's good jumping areas, plenty of space. Even on the island here, these rocks, we've kind of placed some rocks out so they break the water surface a bit. It's not just just an edge, bit of character. So when we walk down through here, some of these areas ramp down, some of them are walls. They're just creating different temperature zones and different areas for different forms of life to exist. On this side, where we've got this more sheer bank along here, we're putting geogrid in, and we're going to fill that with planting material, maybe place a few bigger boulders to kind of break it up, and then that'll all be planted out. Up in the back there, we've made a nice little spa-y kind of pool, just a small one for people to hang out with, a couple of waterfalls coming through, and then a nice creek into the wetland. And then again, another small one over there. And on the back side, all that beach is going to run down. So you got this big cove in here, and then a headland. And then just on the other side, we got a really nice feature with some water coming out through some caves, and it'll fall into ankle deep water where the kids can be safe and come up and interact with the waterfall.
So here we are, we've got to join another piece of liner onto this one. We'll work our way out. It just helps to be able to do projects of any size, and being that it's so flexible, it's so easy to shape, and anything that's a weird shape we can kind of cut and fold and stick it together any way we want. So it's very adaptable to use in any situation. As we're moving the rock in, we use the excavator and a few slings and chains to strap up around the rock and attach it to a swivel hook on the excavator. We can then move it in, and we've got plenty of reach and movement to be able to position the rock where we need it. We get the sling around it, cradling the rock, and then through a chain, so we've got a bit of movement to be able to get it in position. Once we get it in, we can then swivel it if we need to, turn it around, whatever shape fits best with where we're placing the rock. Now the way you strap the rock with the sling around it makes it much easier to get it out. If the sling was underneath, then we'd have a lot of trouble trying to get it out once we've placed the big rock. And as you can see, it's very easy to just swivel around. Once we get it into place, then we can loosen the strap off, take it out and go for the next one. So this is one of the trees that have come off site. We always try and find something that's around in the natural environment to try and bring in and naturalise the whole thing, so it's not just all stone and rock. It's also good environments for birds and fish and everything to live around.
So we're in one of the 2 wetlands on this project where bacteria live, and the bacteria does the majority of filtration, planting another 20%. Something really interesting with these wetlands though is that it allows the water to slow down before it moves up through that pebble, and any sediment and material to drop out. These are designed so that you can backflush them or pump them out, maybe initially first year, then after that every 3 or 4 years, 5 years, depending on how much silt goes into them. But you can backflush them and take that silt material back out of it. That way you're taking any sediment that builds up that is in motion or movement or kicked up in your water body, and taking it out in your wetland before it's filtered and reintroduced back into your pond. This is good too. We've got some logs in here. Really happy to see this. We've got quite a few logs and bits of timber included in this lake here. This is really important stuff. This is breaking down carbon and nutrient from zooplankton, everything up to small insects. This feeds the water. Tannins as well in this. As the timber breaks down, carbon's reintroduced into the water. Your bacteria use that carbon to grow their bodies and increase their population. So timber we've found is extremely important for the vitality of a body of water. It's good to have a bit of driftwood or something in your pond. In this case, in the lake, we've got a few in here. So this is the beach area. We have about 85 metres of beach edge. There'll be a concrete ring around this holding the liner in place. This will be sand down to here, and the water level will be lapping that sand probably around about here. We've installed through here our jetting system. We want to keep this water moving out of the beach area, just keep it fresh and keep some circulation going on. So we have some large lines. We have quite a lot of water coming through this. It's 180,000, 190,000 litres an hour coming through here, split up into these 75 mil lines. So each of these will be just pushing around about 20 to 30,000 litres out through the beach area and just keeping it gently moving back out to be filtered again. A lot of sand to come in. We're going to be pushing this right down to the bottom there. Once we have that, we can start to fill it. And we have about 700 tonne of this sand ordered, which I think will just be on borderline, but I think that is going to do it. And that is a coarse river sand. So I like the coarse river sand. That reminds me of my youth. I like that kind of stuff. Beach sand's good too, but river sand for me, especially with the rock and being so far inland, I think river sand's a better option. So this is a well-washed river sand. It's double washed, we call it, but it's probably about 4 times washed really once they are done with it. That's going to be, you still make sandcastles out of it, I'm sure. So, yeah, but this is the kind of thing you find in the Obi or the Murray River around here. So, beautiful.
The lake is a complete game changer for me, for Woodford. It was pretty much the only thing missing.
It's such a beautiful space to regenerate and just feel like sort of that calmness and also, yeah, just refreshed.
It was a lot nicer than I was expecting. Yeah, it was really refreshing and fully in sync with nature. Like, it was working really well.
Yeah.
It just allows for such a great release and cleanse and relaxation. It really facilitates that.
It just makes the festival so much more comfortable and enjoyable in so many ways. Like, you can get a break from all the craziness. I think they control how many people go into the lake as well, and that mindfulness around swimming and the appreciation of having that set time is so relaxing.
Being able to be refreshed after at Woodford for the first time has been pretty amazing. Like coming after the beach, you know, just being that refreshed and replenished, it's wonderful. Yeah, whole new level, next level, definitely.
It was great. I thought it might be very warm because I thought it'd be shallow, but it wasn't. It was deep and it was a really good temperature, not too hot, not too cold, just right.
The fact that you can go in there and swim and it cools everything down, it's the first thing that we do in the morning, and it just sets up the rest of the day. Yeah, it's really nice, and the fact that you can go back through later stages if you have to. Before it was just cooling down in the shower, but now to immerse yourself in that whole lake, it's great. Yeah, absolutely.
I think the way that they've made it so there's not too many people at one time, and making sure that everyone's going in, you know, washed and natural, and you can really you can really feel the is it weird to just say good vibes of a lake? You can feel, you know, you're aware of the ecosystem, and it really does feel like a kind of regenerative, restorative place for us to be, as well as for the landscape itself out here.
Particularly on the really, really hot afternoons, it's been really special, and it's amazing to go swimming in something that's very Woodford-esque. It's not just like a pool, it's like this amazing system with all the fish, and yeah, it's really cool.
It's like a really natural way to like swim, and like an environmentally way to swim, and it's like a normal like lake, and it's kind of like fresh and natural. So
yeah, and there's a sign that tells you what the fish are. So if you've got goggles on and you're swimming around, you can like see what sort of fish, and you can like see it on the board. Yeah, so it's really cool.
Every day I come in here really early and I go for a snorkel and visit the fish, and I sit down there and I still can't believe it's still here, and I'm still so like I just look at it and say this is incredible, and it's just incredible to see it from that, you know, it's been 2 years in the planning pretty much, you know, and it's like to have that vision of it, all the guys that worked on it, I mean, really creative guys from around Australia, you know, Mitch and Dan and all the rest of them. There's about 12 contractors that came in this one. I couldn't have done it without them, and to see the little touches they do, and to know that this is just the start of it, and that like in a year's time it's going to be softer and more subtle as well, you know, so, and the plants growing in, and yeah, I can't wait to see it grow old, you know, so yeah.